Okay, this is going to be my first video on a Hot Toys figure. A Hot Toys figure is a very popular 1/6 scale figure maker. In this case, we have the Tactical Suit Batman. So I've shown already the Mezco Tactical Suit Batman, and then I'll show right here. So here's the Mezco figure. And I've heard people say, kind of refer to Mezco as a 1/12 scale Hot Toys figure maker. So you can look at the detail on there. And then compare to Hot Toys. So let me start with just kind of give you an idea of the size here. So right here, this is a Star Wars figure from the 1970s. It's Greedo. And you can sort of get an impression of the size of him compared to Mezco figure. So the Mezco figure is clearly quite a bit bigger. This is what I think 3¼ inch. Mezco is more like 6.5 inch. Now we compare it to the Hot Toys figure. Even though the Hot Toys figure is 1/6 instead of 1/12, so it would be twice the height. The size difference is enormous. It looks absolutely gigantic. And the detail is, of course, going to be greater. There's things that you could do with a 1/12 scale or a 1/6 scale that you can't do with a 1/12 scale. Particularly these glasses, which I'm not, well, can I remove them? Yeah, I guess I can. It's not that hard. Don't want to damage this figure. So the glasses are real enough that you can actually see through them. And in there you can see his eyes. So this is Ben Affleck, of course. And it really does look like Ben Affleck. It's got his chin, it's got his jaw. And the eyes in there actually can be moved. I'd have to remove the head. But there's a tool to move the eyes around if you'd like to have them look in different directions. So on here, it's basically just a plastic mold. Here, it's a little bit more realistic. Now these are not metal clips or anything, but the straps are a bit more real. And you can see all of the damage on here, the scrapes, the scuffs, all of that, to give it the look of wear and tear. And there's the utility belt, which looks pretty impressive. I don't know if this, I've never really analyzed it that deeply. I feel like this strap should be going somewhere, but it doesn't go anywhere. So these aren't complete, absolute reproductions of what they are in the movie, but they're pretty darn good. These are impressive. Now, I'll have to be honest with you. So this is just one of my Hot Toys figures, but I don't have a ton of them, even though they're super popular. Particularly if you're a Marvel fan, there are so many Marvel figures out there, and they're all, in the $200+ range, which actually is not that bad for a figure this size. These are articulated. This is not a statue. You can move the figure, but I will warn you that the articulation on here is about as bare minimum as you can get. So again, I pose him. I just give him a little, a very neutral stance. His arms are a little bit bent. If you see pictures out there of a Hot Toys figure, particularly the Tactical Suit Batman, and he's doing different things, like he's kneeling down, or he's I think in one photo he's throwing a batarang or something. Just know a couple of things. First of all, the photographers are very good at using angles to give the impression that he's capable of doing things more than what the figure is actually capable of doing. And second of all, the photographers clearly don't care about damaging the figure, and so they will crank the figure into I tried to reproduce one of I think it was the one where he's throwing the batarang, to reproduce that pose, and I could not do it. I couldn't even come close without cranking the figure to the point where I was simply not willing to do that. There is, and sometimes in here, the authenticity is such that, so this is, let me move this if I can. It's impossible to move stuff around. But okay, so here's the knee joint in here, and I'll show you a little bit of a difference in why I say that Hot Toys cares much more about form over function. So in the Hot Toys figure, you can see there's quite a bit of space in there, and the figure is able to bend the knee very easily. Okay. Good, very good articulation. In here, in the knee, it's much closer. This space in here is very narrow. And if you try to bend the knee, things start smacking into each other, and it doesn't work. So this may be more film accurate, but when all you care about is film accuracy and you don't care one bit about articulation, that's the kind of decision you're going to make. You're going to say, okay, this is how it looks in the film, so we're going to reproduce it. Whereas the Mezco figure is like, okay, we're going to make a little sacrifice so that the figure is, the articulation isn't hampered. So it is basically like I would say it's like a soft statue. It really is. I mean, they're beautiful. I love the different materials used. So it's not hard. Everything is, I mean, the plastic is hard. It's fairly hard, but it's not hard like a statue hard. And this is an outfit over a figure, just like with the Mezco figures. You can't see any of the joints. In fact, on this figure, you can't see any of the joints. Nothing. I have some Hot Toys figures. This one, of all the figures, this one is about as encumbered as you're going to get. Full, you've got the costume under here, and then the plating on top, and all of that. And so it's not surprising. But I have Hot Toys figures where it's almost completely unencumbered, and the articulation is still terrible. So they clearly don't care about that. They care about the look, what it looks like on a shelf. And they do look fantastic. Now, the prices, let's say a prices of, I don't remember what I paid for this, but we'll say a price is $266. That may seem like a lot. And then these I will also say that these figures tend to go up significantly in price. So I don't have my laptop here, but I'm sure if I looked up, or you could look up the prices of the tactical suit Batman, and I'm sure that they're very high in what they're selling for. But I've had robot figures that cost more than that. I've had robot figures that are in the $300 or $400 range. So $266 is not actually that outrageous. Once you start getting into statues, I'm not interested in statues. It's not my thing. But then you could be talking about thousands of dollars. And the statues, the reason I'm not into statues is for a few reasons. I like the engineering on these figures. I'm not prepared to start paying $1,000 for one statue, and the statues are gigantic. They're generally more in the range of a quarter scale with a some kind of background or stand, and so they're going to take up a ton of space, and they require assembly. So I like these, and this one takes up a bit of space. It's about a foot tall, and then this is about the stand is about 2.5 inches, something like that. So it takes up certainly more space than one of the Mezco figures. And if I had to get rid of one of my collection of 1/6 scale figures, I collect the Justice League, I collect James Bond, and I collect Star Trek. And if I had to give up one of them, it would be the Hot Toys figures. The Hot Toys figures always have some kind of issue, but when you look at it here, you probably look at it and think it looks perfect, and it really does look amazing. It looks incredible, but it is very much like a soft statue in that if you look at reviews of the Hot Toys figures, they don't even tend to talk about the articulation at all or manipulate the figure at all, because I know that a lot of people, they sit there and they say, I didn't pay all this money for a figure just to damage it. So a lot of times it's easier just to just let it go. Just put it on a shelf and not do anything with it. I've seen a lot of times where people will be showing off their collections, and the figures are all generally in the same kind of neutral stance that I put them in. There's some cool things you could do with 112, for instance. The chin, I'm not going to show it, but this is held in by a magnet. It's removable, and then they have alternate chins. So this one's got the gritting teeth, and there's other ones that you could do. And so I kind of like that one with the aggressive look. And like I said, there is a bit more authenticity in the design. So none of this is metal. It may look metal, but it's all plastic. And the only issue I had with the figure was in the cape. And I don't know if I can show it off, but it started kind of like attaching, kind of like binding to itself. And so I sometimes have to kind of pull it apart. So yeah, I have another Batman figure with the Justice League. It's the non-tactical suit, and the cape is a bit of a different design. So I don't know if they discovered that this was causing a problem, and then they went with a different fabric for the cape. But the cape, yeah, and it's a little disappointing, but so be it. So that's my first Hot Toys that I'm going to show. I know that a lot of people are fans of the tactical suit Batman, so this is it in much larger scale than the little itty bitty Mezco figure.